I'm Ina Garten, and welcome to the Shoe-Wearing Countess. Today I'm having a couple of my friends over, and we're going to make a really simple meal. Risotto with prawns and asparagus. Alright, so the things that you're going to need to make this recipe: 24 ounces of chicken stock, 4 tablespoons of olive oil, a tablespoon and 2 teaspoons of butter divided, a tablespoon and 1 teaspoon of Parmesan cheese. We're going to need 3.5 ounces of arborio rice. We're going to need the juice of half a lemon, half of a chili pepper. We're using a jalapeno and you're going to want to mince that up. But you can use any other type of pepper if you don't like spice. You don't even have to include it. 1/4 of a medium-sized onion, 2 or 3 cloves of garlic. We're going to use 5 asparagus spears. We're going to use 5 prawns. We're going to devein them in a couple minutes. And then we're going to also use some fresh parsley, which I picked from my garden this morning.
Excited to make this risotto.
I know it's going to be so good, but the first thing we got to do is wash our vegetables. So you can wash the jalapeno and the asparagus.
So what's next?
So the first thing that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get all our vegetables prepped. So you're going to have to mince some garlic, and then eventually we're going to do the onion and clean up the asparagus. And while you're doing that, I'm going to get started on deveining the prawns. First thing that you want to do when you devein a prawn is, if they come with the shells on, you're going to want to peel the shells off. And it's really easy. You just want to go around and just sort of peel the back of the shell off and get the little legs of the shrimp. And then it really helps if you have a garbage bowl. I have a garbage bowl right here to put all the shells in. And if you want to keep the tail on, like we're going to do today, just for presentation, you want to peel everything down except to obviously where the tail starts. And then to devein the shrimp, if you don't want to do it by the sink, what will help is if you have a small clean bowl of water, because you're going to need that to clean out the vein. So you're going to take your shrimp, kind of extend it in your hand, and then take your paring knife, and you're going to want to run it all the way down the back, almost like you're butterflying a shrimp, but you don't want to go all the way in. And then what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to peel back a little bit of the skin, and you're going to then help with the water and then peel out the vein. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that the vein is also called the sand vein, but it's actually a euphemism because their vein is their digestive tract.
Good thing we're taking it out.
Yeah, you don't want to eat that. So then, once you have all of the vein out of the shrimp, it's going to look almost like you started to butterfly it, but you didn't really go all the way with it. And then once you're done with that, you can just lay it down and do all the rest of your shrimp.
Oh, hey, Bree, what's up?
Honey. Now that my friend Bree's also here, she's going to mince up the jalapeno really fine just to add a little bit of spice to the risotto. And now that the asparagus is cut, I'm going to have Ani start heating up the chicken stock on the stove. And the reason why we do that for the risotto is because it makes the whole process go faster, so you don't have to wait for the stock to heat up when it hits the pan with the rice.
Sounds great.
Now that we have our chicken stock heating up on the stove in a saucepan, we're going to cook the prawns, and we're also going to cook the asparagus, the chili, and the garlic, and those things are actually going to go on top of the risotto once we finish it. So I started heating up some olive oil in my pan. So we're going to cook the garlic and the chili just for about a minute or two, just so it starts to soften, and then we're going to add the asparagus and our prawns. Our garlic and our chili has been cooking for about a minute. We're going to add the asparagus first. We're just going to put it in so it starts to lightly cook, and we don't want to cook it too much. We just want to get it a little bit al dente, so there's still a bite to it when you chew down on it, but it's not totally soft all the way through. So the next thing we're going to do is I deveined 10 prawns. We're only going to add in 5. We're just going to put them in, and then we're going to cook them just until they turn pink all the way through. We don't want to overcook the shrimp because they can become a little bit tough, and that's not pleasant. Now, Brie, if you want to take over so I can go wash my hands really quick.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so now that we have the prawns and the asparagus cooking, Anya's going to get started on the risotto. So the way that we start that is we're going to put in the rest of the olive oil, so 2 tablespoons, and then half of the butter, and then we're going to put the onions in and start to cook them until they get a little golden and they start to soften. And then once that happens, we're going to add in the rice. The onions have started to soften and get a little bit golden, so now we're going to add in the rice. And then, Ani, why don't you stir that until all the grains get coated in the olive oil and the butter. So we're going to put our first ladle of broth in, and Ani's going to constantly stir that And she's going to keep stirring it until the first ladle of broth has been totally absorbed into the rice. And then we're going to add another ladle and just continue that. And right now we're at about medium-high heat, and that's what you want to have it on. You don't want to have the heat too high because then the broth won't get absorbed into the rice, but it'll start to evaporate.
So Bree, what are we gonna do with the asparagus and the prawns?
Oh, the asparagus and the prawns are gonna sit in the pan and keep warm until the risotto's done.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So something you'll notice the longer you go on with the risotto is that the stock starts to absorb less and less, but you want to still make sure that you don't add the stock before the previous ladle of stock has been absorbed.
Just added some salt, and now I'm gonna add some pepper. Risotto is basically ready, so now I'm just gonna finish it up with a little butter. The rest of our butter.
There you go.
And after adding our butter, we're gonna add our Parmesan cheese. And we're just gonna stir until it's all combined.
Ani's finishing up the risotto with the Parmesan cheese and the butter. I'm going to reheat the prawns and the asparagus, but I'm going to squeeze some lemon juice over it just to bring out the flavor. And you just need to use about half a lemon, the juice of half a lemon. Okay, so now that we finished up the risotto, the prawns and the asparagus, we're going to plate it up. And a really cool thing you can do if you want to make it look really nice is when you plate up your risotto, you can do it in a mold. You could do a circle mold. I don't have a big enough circle mold, so we're going to use this cool flowery shaped one. You just want to put the risotto inside the mold, and then you're going to spread it out so it gets in all the little crevices of the mold. You want to make it nice and as even as possible on top. And then what we're going to do is we're going to lift the mold up, and you see that the shape remains. And then, Brie, if you want to bring over all of the shrimp and the asparagus, then we can plate it up really nice. So we can put the shrimp on top. And then this is the shrimp that we obviously cooked with the garlic and the chili pepper, so it's going to have a nice kick to it. And then we can take our asparagus pieces and just sort of lay them around. It doesn't have to be super fancy since we're just going to eat this sitting down at the table. Alright, so now we're going to chop up some fresh parsley to go on top of our prawns and our risotto. Just a chop. It doesn't have to be super precise. You just want to add it because it adds a little bit of nice green to the plate, but it also adds a little bit of flavor. So then, Brie, if you just want to sprinkle that on top, then our risotto is done. Well, thanks for watching this episode of Shoe Wearing Countess. I'm Ina Garten, and I'll see you next week.